Hi, it's Gabrielle, and this video is part 3 of the emotionally unavailable man. Due to the overwhelming response to parts 1 and 2 of the emotionally unavailable man, I decided to create part 3 so we can talk about how to work with your emotionally unavailable man to help him become more emotionally available. For over 12 years, I've been a licensed professional counselor and relationship expert in private practice in Boulder, Colorado. My practice is grounded in the science of what makes relationships work. Today, you're going to learn some concrete strategies you can use that can turn the tide for the better. If you like the relationship tips and marriage advice that you're getting in these videos, please remember to subscribe to my channel right now. Just click on the subscribe button right here. And if you're enjoying this video, please give it a like and share it. And please go to thepowercoupleformula.com for lots more information on how to build an amazing relationship, and visit powercoupleseducation.com to stay connected. Okay, so in part 1 of the emotionally unavailable man, we talked about what the signs of emotional unavailability are and why it's a problem in relationship and where it gets started. In part 2, we talked about why you might find yourself attracted to emotionally unavailable men and the signs you can look for that tell you if someone's emotionally unavailable. In part 3, we're going to talk about how to work together in a relationship to help your man become more emotionally available. If these techniques are going to work, you need to make sure that you have one thing straight. And that is that your emotionally unavailable partner understands that this is a problem and that they want to work on it. If they understand that this is distressing you, but they have no interest in working on it, that's a deal breaker for your relationship. It's essentially the same thing as saying, honey, I know you're in distress about this, but I really don't care. So long as that's your man's attitude, your relationship can't change. Because contrary to popular belief, relationships take two to tango. But if your partner understands that their behavior is a problem, they recognize that, they're self-aware enough to know, yes, this is something that I do, I'm emotionally unavailable and it's creating problems in my marriage and that's my responsibility to do something about it, then it's possible that the two of you can work on it, in which case this video could be very helpful. In order to understand how to work with emotional unavailability, we need to just look at the human nervous system for a second. This is going to give you tons of insight into your emotionally unavailable man and understand exactly what you need to do to make this situation better. The material in this video is adapted from 2 books by Dr. Stan Tadkin, Wired for Love and We Do, and I'll put the links to those books in the notes for this video. You've got to understand how emotionally unavailable men are wired. Everyone's energy in their nervous system moves up and down throughout the day to more exciting, energetic states, like if you're going for a job or making a big presentation, and back down to calmer and more relaxing states, like if you're lying in the bathtub or just finished a big meal. Now, in order for us to stay in balance, we need to have ways of managing that flow of energy through our nervous system. Because if we get too excited, that could be a problem. But if we get too flat or devoid of energy, that can also be a problem for us. So without even thinking about it, we all have ways of trying to keep our energy in balance. So we all have different strategies for how we manage our energy and keep it in balance. Some people tend to use their relationships more to balance their energy. So if they're feeling a little bit glum, they would reach out to a friend and have a conversation, and that would lift them up. But other people turn inside to manage their energy instead of to the outside world or to their relationships. These are the people who tend to engage in solo activities like surfing the web, going for a bike ride, listening to music, reading a book, any kind of activity that's done alone. We all know people who love to be around other people all the time, and they thrive on interpersonal connection. And then there are other people who absolutely need their alone time. Now, they might phrase that as a preference for alone time, but really it's much more than that. The truth is that people who prefer alone time really need alone time in order to be able to manage their energy. And it's a certain kind of state that they like to hang out in when they're alone doing these alone activities. These people really need to be alone in order to manage their energy. They actually experience quite a lot of stress in interpersonal relationships. So interpersonal relationships are not a way that they calm down. They actually feel like they use a lot of energy. And in fact, interpersonal relationships do use more energy than doing things by yourself, because it actually takes a lot of your brain's resources in order to engage in an interaction with another person. So people who rely on these solo regulation strategies are using something we call auto-regulation, which means that they are exciting themselves or calming themselves down. So it's a kind of an auto-regulatory experience, which is why these people often report the need for personal space. They're very sensitive to their personal space. Most emotionally unavailable men make use of auto-regulation as their primary strategy for managing their energy. That means that when they're under stress, when they're feeling imbalanced, when they're too hyper or they're too low, they're not likely to reach out to another person in order to create a sense of peace and balance. They're likely to turn away from other people and go inside. And because of their nervous system's reliance on that auto-regulation, it can make them seem very unavailable, because every time they have something going on, they seem to just disappear. And if you're in relationship with someone like this, it can be extremely frustrating, especially if you're the kind of person who naturally moves toward others when you're under stress. Understand that auto-regulation is a strategy that children have to develop when they spend a lot of time alone. As children, our nervous systems are meant to develop in relation to another person, where we learn how to interact, how to use another person in order to calm down, either by being held, or a parent saying kind words to us, or touching us, gazing at us in a warm and loving way. All of these things teach us how to relate to another person in an interactive way in order to balance our energy. But when children spend too much time alone and come from low contact families, they don't learn how to calm down or how to get excited in relation to another person. They have to figure all of that stuff out on their own. So on a certain level, your emotionally unavailable man isn't thinking, how can I withhold all of my affection from you? It's just that their nervous system was hardwired from really 18 months or earlier to manage their energy in a particular way. It's just what they learned to do. They find their balance alone, and this is what feels normal to them. And by the way, it makes a lot of sense that they don't really understand your need for interpersonal regulation, because that's not something they feel. So it's very difficult for them to understand why you would feel the need for so much contact. Auto-regulation isn't a state that somebody decides they're going to do. It's not like they say, I'm going to auto-regulate now. I'm going to start, pumping myself up or kind of relating to myself. It's more like a state that people just naturally fall into when they're alone. So you might find with your emotionally unavailable man, when they're just left on the computer for even a few minutes at a time, you might find that it's very difficult for you to reestablish contact with them. It's almost like they've gone into their personal bubble, and now you want to talk to them. And it's very hard for them to make that transition out of that kind of alone auto-regulatory state and back into an interactive state with you. In fact, a lot of emotionally unavailable men have so much difficulty going from being alone to being with their partner that they just don't do it. It's very difficult to get them to engage at all, because it's such a difficult transition, and it really represents a huge nervous system change to go from personal space into interactive space. Women in relationship often quickly learn that it's just not worth disrupting them because it creates so much heartache and you don't end up getting the kind of contact that you want anyway. So what do? What if you really love this guy? There really are wonderful moments to the relationship, and more contact would make all the difference to you. First of all, it's important to understand that many people who have a tendency to fall into autoregulation can become extremely engaged, extremely interactive, sensitive, and responsive when they manage to get over that hump of going from being alone to being with another person. So you might have noticed that maybe, your emotionally unavailable man comes home from work and seems like he's just in his own world. But gradually, as you kind of get closer over the course of the night, something starts to change and he starts to soften, open up, and seem much more present and available. Obviously, you'd like this to happen more quickly and more predictably. So here's what you need to do. It's important that you and your partner are both consciously aware of the fact that going from being alone to being together is difficult for your emotionally unavailable man to do, and that you not let that create a problem or an obstacle to the two of you being close. The precise thing that will make this transition better is if your partner is the one who does the moving. If your partner is the one who walks over to you, who hugs you, who kisses you, who rubs you. All of these things give your emotionally unavailable partner a sense of power, a sense of taking the bull by the horns and being the active partner in the relationship. Now, I'm sure you've noticed that that's not usually the way it is. You're the one who's usually running after them, kind of your classic pursuer distancer dynamic, where you have this woman who really feels an emotional need for connection and is pursuing the man, and the man is kind of withdrawing. But what will really help is if you can reverse this dynamic and encourage your partner to move toward you. That is what gives them a sense of power and control in the relationship. Because really what they're used to feeling is that they're always being pursued, they're always being told what to do. They have a sense of lacking any sense of power or agency in the relationship. And so we want to reverse this by getting them out of that kind of auto-regulatory state and into creating a relationship that feels good to them. It all boils down to this. When they're in their auto-regulatory state and you come to them and you want contact and you're coming over to them and trying to get them to touch you and stuff, this feels like an intrusion. It feels like they're in this kind of trance-like state where they're enjoying just being alone, and suddenly you're intruding on them. And that's going to make them freeze and feel very resentful, like their space is being invaded. So rather than do that, you want to get them to be the mover. They have to be the mover and the shaker. That means they're the ones who need to be actively moving toward you, hugging you, kissing you. And that's going to give them a sense of power in the relationship, that they are not being invaded, they're not being told what to do, that they can actually do it in a way that feels good to them. So here's how to make this happen. First, you want to have a conversation with your partner and make sure that they're aware that their emotional unavailability is a problem and that they're willing to do something about it. It's important that they understand that the more of a sense of power they have to create the connection that feels good to them, even if they think they don't need it for themselves, the easier it's going to be to get them out of that feeling of being intruded upon and like they're being controlled or they are just not doing it right. It's important that you start cueing your emotionally unavailable man to get him to do the things that are going to create the interaction that you want. And that means saying things like, "Come here, sweetheart. Put your arms around me. Kiss me. Tell me you love me." So you can give them some short directives that are non-critical, but rather just tell them exactly what to do. And they will be very, very grateful for that. This is going to feel great for them because it's going to relieve them of the feeling that they're not actually sure what they're supposed to be doing in a relationship, because they feel a little bit clueless about how you're supposed to be with another person. So this is going to feel very clarifying for them. And also you're telling them to do a finite action, like kiss me or hug me. So it's a discrete action that has a beginning, middle, and end. And that's going to give them a sense, oh, this isn't going to last forever, so I'm not going to feel like this is too much for me. The other thing you can do is making sure that you're giving your man transition time to transition between being on their own to being with you. So let's say they're in their home office on the computer and you want to talk to them in the kitchen about something to do with the house. You don't want to come into their office and say, "I need to talk to you right now about the house. So please get up and come in here and I need to talk to you." That's going to feel like an invasion of their personal space. And so what works much better is to say, "Hey honey, can you come into the kitchen in about 5 or 10 minutes so I can talk to you about the house? Would that work for you?" Make sure they agree to that and then just walk away and let them come to you. That gives them some transition time, some time to prepare for moving out of personal space and into an interactive space. And the more they have a sense of power over their own actions and their own actions in relation to you, the more collaborative they're going to be, because they're going to start to feel like their needs matter too. So maybe they're watching the game and you come up to them and you say, "You know, honey, when the game's over, just come and find me. I'd love to see you." It could be that simple. In all of these strategies, we're trying to avoid producing an experience of intrusion or making your emotionally unavailable partner feel a sense of shame for their actions. So you want to avoid any kind of criticism or making them feel like they're on the spot. When you open up a space for them to move toward you, it allows them to relax and engage with you in an interactive and intimate kind of way, in a way that doesn't feel too jarring to their nervous system. When your partner feels a sense of power and control over their ability to move towards you and engage interactively with you in a loving way, that's going to lay the foundation for emotional availability on a more ongoing basis. This will give you and your partner more emotional stability and a sense of ongoing connection in your relationship. The more people experience that sense of emotional depth and connection with each other, the easier it becomes for them to engage on that level, and the more their nervous system actually builds its capacity for interaction. So if your man is open to this, there's a really good chance it's going to work. Now, I'd like to hear from you. What strategy would you like to try first? Is it number one, giving your partner short directives like kiss me or hug me that tell your partner exactly what to do to create a sense of emotional availability? Or is it going up to them and letting them know that you'd like to talk to them and giving them some transition time, and then walking away so that they can have a sense of power and control? Leave me your comments below about which one of these strategies you're going to try first, and I'll look forward to reading your comments, and I'll see you in the next video.